afternoon, distinguished colleagues. I think we can start our side event. I know a lot of people are running to join us, so but the time is also running away, and we cannot afford to lose time. So we'll start the event. Let me welcome you all to this side event, which is organized by the CGE. The side event is to showcase the achievements that the group has made over the past, I would say, couple of years, in particular, starting from when the mandate was renewed in Warsaw at COP14. And it's been mainly in the area of MRV and the transparency framework. And the idea is showcase what they, as a group, have done to support developing countries in the preparation of their biannual audit reports and also their national communications, and also to share some lessons learned in that case. We're privileged to have the chair of CGE with us, who would be making a presentation on the achievement that the CGE have made, and also would hear some country presentations in terms of the efforts they've made in preparing their national reports, which is national communications and also biannual audit reports. Here we would have Senegal, Albania, sharing such experience. We're expecting Morocco to join us, but it looks like they are not able to do so. So we would benefit from the presentation from Albania and also Senegal. CGE is one of the, I would say, the oldest groups or expert groups under the convention that have been providing technical assistance to developing countries and also advice as requested by them. They have facilitated parties to prepare better quality national communications and biannual audit reports. It is one of the bodies constituted under the convention that also rich and long history of direct engagement with countries in providing their or improving their technical capacity to participate in the MRV arrangements under the convention. Today we have also the chance to have the chair of SBI, our dear colleague, and we all know Thomas Crucial very well. So he's here to share a few words with us, and we're very thankful to Thomas for taking some time off. We all know SBI's chair's busy schedule to be with us. So without further ado, I'll give the floor to Thomas to share a few words with us. Thomas, you have the floor.
Should I press something?
I think it works.
No, I think it works. Yeah, okay, good. Thank you very much, and welcome everybody, and thank you, William, for your kind introduction. It's always a pleasure to be where the real action, the real implementation takes place. So we are not here to talk about what could have happened. We are not here to talk what we should do. We are here to talk about what has happened. We are here to talk what we were doing, what we are doing, and what we will need to do in order to fully implement transparency. It's not just the conversation about the Cancun MRV framework, which is a very important framework already fully implemented, where the experts from the consultative group of experts take active part, but this is also the prerequisite for successful understanding of what all parties are doing under the Paris Agreement, what all parties are bringing to the table during the global stocktake, which is just, okay, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not the day after tomorrow, but not later than the next week. 5 years is a very short period. 5 years will quickly pass, and we will need to understand if what we are doing is adequate, if what we are doing is leading us to the long-term goal, to the ultimate goal of the convention, and to the long-term goal of Paris agreement of keeping the temperature well below 2 degrees. Colleagues, the consultative group of experts is the unique body also because this is the body that works directly with developing countries, with governments, with people on the ground. And there are very concrete results of this work, the results that tell of dozens of experts being trained, the results that tell of the innovative modalities for training being deployed, like e-learning. And it also tells us on what we will experience here in this session as well, of how the biennial update reports from developing countries are being assessed by teams of technical experts, where the CGE has its very important role. Colleagues, well, as the chair of implementation body of this convention, I have the duty to be very careful with time, which is probably the scarcest resource here in these negotiations. And without making a too lengthy speech, I would like to say good luck. Have a very interesting exchange of views. Please use this opportunity to take as many as possible good practices, good lessons from what the colleagues will be presenting. And, well, I'm sure that we will see each other soon in similar occasions. Thank you very much and good luck.
Okay. Thank you very much, Thomas, again, for taking the time off your busy schedule to be with us. I would now give the floor to Stephen, who is the chair of the CGE, to make a presentation on some of the achievements that the group has made. Stephen.
Thank you, William, for the moderation and for the invitation, and thank you, SBI Chair, for finding time to be with us, to encourage us, and of course to allow us to benefit from your very wide experience in matters of transparency. We are honored to be here. Yes. So the SBI Chair would like to leave, and we allow him to leave because he has already done well to find time to just kickstart this side event. We are most honored, sir. So I will make a quick presentation to highlight the CGE support to MRV and the transparency framework, and sharing, of course, of lessons learned in our work. As I start, I would want to recognize the CGE members, of course, who are with us today. We have at least 3 members that have been able to notice. Rosho, you are there. Tanabe, Kyoto, you are there. And then Tiago, of course, here representing Latin America and the Caribbean. Kyoto, of course, represents the IPCC, and Rosho represents the federal government of Germany. And we are honored to have you with us here. So I will quickly start the presentation just to share lessons, and then also, of course, benefit from the experiences, of course, of parties and other stakeholders represented here. So ideally, this presentation is to not just to share lessons, but also to start discussion, of course, with the parties represented and other, even non-state actors who are represented, of course, in today's side event. My recognition, of course, to the Secretariat for the continued support in the work of the CGE. So just to start us off, I am, of course, revisiting the fact that William has already mentioned that the CGE mandate was renewed for another 5 years starting 2014. And of course, that mandate lapses in 2018. And the objective, of course, of the CGE is to improve the process of and preparation of national communications and biannual update reports by parties not included in Annex 1 to the convention, of course, that are popularly referred to as non-Annex 1 parties, by providing technical advice and support to these parties. As, of course, to help us as the CGE, of course, deliver on our mandate, we have developed a 5-year work program, which focuses on key strategic priorities, including building capacity of developing country parties to facilitate the implementation of MRV arrangements and under the convention, to enhance, of course, the sustainability of national reporting, including national communications and biannual update reports, and then, of course, enhance collaboration and cooperation with other global initiatives, and then fourthly, of course, to enhance communication and outreach, and lastly, of course, to ensure availability of resources and optimal working arrangements for the operations of the CGE. Next slide. Okay. Now, as a part of our capacity building activities, we have developed tools and guidance materials aimed at improving institutional arrangements and gaining access to financial, technical, and capacity building support or resources. We have organized hands-on, of course, regional-based hands-on capacity building workshops, and we have developed collaboration with key global initiatives such as the UNDP, UNEP, GSP, or the Global Support Program. And of course, we have created an information and collaborative online platform to enhance dialogue amongst stakeholders. And of course, we'll get a bit of more details on this. Next slide, please. In terms of training materials, I will just give, of course, the clusters. We have training materials on national communications that include, of course, the aspects of vulnerability and adaptation assessments, of course, national greenhouse gas inventories, and the mitigation assessments. And then we have, of course, training materials on the preparation of biannual update reports. And we have training materials that are specifically dedicated to the training of the team of technical experts, of course, that that are involved in the ICA process. So those are the batches of the clusters of training materials that the CGE we have developed. Let's go to the next one. This slide gives us, of course, a summary of the numbers that have passed through the training, of course, the training dedicated for the team of technical experts. And we have already done 3 rounds of training, and this is a purely online training training course. So round 1 we did in 2015, and we had Annex 1 participants numbering up 29, and of course 41 from non-Annex 1 parties, a total of 70. And we did a second round the same year in 2015 with 14 participants from Annex 1 and 21 from non-Annex 1 parties, of course, totaling 35. And in round 3, there was a round 2, of course. The first round 2, the batch that I've given totaling 35 was for more experienced experts, and then we had a round 2 of course for less experienced experts. And in this we had 16 participants from Annex 1, 18 from non-Annex 1, and a total of 34. And then this year we had round 3 with a total of 24 participants, with an equal number, of course, of 12 from Annex 1 and Annex 1 parties. So in total, we have trained for the TT work, we have trained a total of 71 participants, of course, from Annex 1 parties, and 92 from non-Annex 1 parties, making a total of 163 participants who have gone through the course and actually gotten certified. And then let's go to the next one. This is ideally how to access the CGE training materials on the UNFCCC website. You only need to go to the web page that is dedicated to the CGE, and it's easy, of course, to access. Of course, the rounded area, of course, is where you can access the CGE training materials. So this ideally just a capture of the screen of the CGE training materials web page. And therefore, it is possible to access that online. We have made it easy for registration and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, the next slide, of course, summarizes the number of participants that have gone through the regional training workshops. And the first column, of course, is the numbers that have been trained on V&A, or vulnerability and adaptation assessments. And in 2015, we did, because what we do, we alternate, so that if this year we are doing a V&A, next year we are likely to zero in on a different area of interest. And of course, we are listening also to parties to inform us perhaps what are the priorities for the year. But arrangement, then we have arranged so that then we do it in an alternating manner. So in 2015, we did training rounds on V&A, and we trained 32 participants from the Latin America and the Caribbean region, 31 from Asia Pacific and the Eastern European region, and then 44 from Africa, making a total of 107 participants that have gone, that qualified through, or that went through the full regional training on V&A. And in 2016, we did 2 training programs, one on GAG inventories, national GAG inventories, and one on the preparation of biannual update reports. And the numbers are there again. We did 41 on from Latin America and the Caribbean on national greenhouse gas inventories, 69 for preparation of biannual update reports. And from Asia, Pacific, and Eastern Europe, we trained 31 on GAG inventories. No, sorry, 56 on GAG inventories and 90 on the preparation of BURs, making us a total of 177 for the 3 training workshops for V&A, GAG inventories, and BUR preparation. Excuse me. And then for Africa, we, of course, did 57. We trained 57 on GAG inventories and 96 on biannual update report preparation, making a total of 197 participants trained from Africa. In total, of course, we have the last row at the bottom, of course, summarizes the totals for the different training workshops. But in total, for all the 3 types of workshops or categories of workshops, we trained a total of 516 participants from developing country parties or non-Annex 1 parties. Now, we also have conducted CGE webinars on different areas of interest, of course, to parties. And we have done vulnerability and adaptation assessment webinars. We have done mitigation assessment webinars. And we have done also GAG inventory webinars. And we have trained, of course, respectively 194 in V&A, 186 in mitigation assessments, and of course, for on GAG inventory, 89. I would want now, let's move to the next slide, please. So this about the last few slides. One deals, of course, with the e-learning and of course the e-network platforms. And I would want, of course, as a sign of our collaboration with the Secretariat, to invite Bava from the Secretariat to make the presentation of those last slides, and then we can move forward. So Bava, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So the CGE, as Stephen mentioned earlier, has a number of training materials on V&A vulnerability and adaptation, national greenhouse gas inventory, and mitigation assessment. So in order to make the material more user-friendly, the CGE decided to make them into an e-learning course. This e-learning course, it is a free e-learning course that is available, and one can take the course as per your interest. So you don't have to take the course, the entire course, but as per the topic you are interested in. There's a certification from the CGE at the end of each module when you finish it. So what the CGE has started is to run the module in 3-month basis. So once you have registered, you would be able to register. It's free, it's time bound, it's 3 months, and you'll get a notification saying their 3 months is up. Would you like to extend? And you'll be provided another 3-month extension. So altogether, you would have about 6 months to finish this course. And currently, we have about 235 active users. And what the CGE is planning is that from mid-January next year to start the new enrollment process to say. So this way, it would be easier for the CGE to monitor how many people have accessed, what sort of interest there are on the certification. As just to indicate, you would be able to, when you come to the CGE website, on the right-hand column, an e-learning course link. You just have to click on that link and it will ask you to, if you are not previously registered, to register as a new user, and it will probably take us maybe 1 or 2 days to provide you the credentials to access it, and you would be given a 3-month entry. Just to give an indication of, say, the syllabus, the course is divided into a number of lessons, so you can launch each lesson and come back to the lesson and complete it. So you will be able to pick up where you had left off. Just another picture about how it looks and when you enter it. And then here's, again, a certificate that one would receive at the end of the completion of this course. As Stephen mentioned also, the CGE also has an e-network site, and this site is basically to make it a more of a collaborative platform that has been developed by the CGE. It is called the e-network site, and here you would be able to access the documents that were indicated also on the other CGE page, and there's going to be a forum as well where one on, say, the preparation of your national communication or biennial update reports, you can ask questions and the experts will respond to your questions or to guide you to where you can get that information. And then there's also a forum of experts. These are experts that have been trained from the CGE course, which Stephen mentioned earlier, the regional level courses that the CGE has done. So this is basically what you would see. Just before I would like just how you can access the CGE site. So the quickest way is for you to put it into the Google search that is here. Just type CGE. And you'll be directed. One of the search results will be the CGE site. So you are here at the CGE page. And this right-hand column is basically where you are provided with the various links. And the e-network collaboration is right here. And you can enter the site that is available here. For example, the forum. And then depending on which topic you would like to discuss, you can address it here. The library is here. It has various documents, guideline materials, and this we continue to update. And if there's certain new material available, we will update it. You can actually send it to the Secretariat, and based on the CGE, we will add the information to this site as well. And then there's also an expert database that is available. One can search for an expert on the various topics. These are, as I said, national experts that have gone through previous CGE training. So that, yes, completes my presentation. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Stephen, the chair of CGE, and also Baba for that comprehensive presentation. At least, colleagues, you've had at least some quick overview of what the CGE is doing. It's quite an enormous amount of work if you get into that. So thanks for the presentation, and we hope you will be able to use it, especially the e-network and also the forum that has been created is to generate discussions among experts at the regional and national level, so at least you can all learn from each other and do good work. I have one of the CGE members here. Thiago, you want to interject and make any comment on this?
Yeah, thank you. Just to quickly remind all the participants that the information that was provided by Bava, the guidelines, and also the tools. We are in the effort of translating to several different languages. As you will see, we already have plenty material in French, Spanish, and Arabic. We're still searching for support from other organizations that would like to collaborate with CGE, especially with non-UN languages. Also, it would be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's an important addition, Thiago, for the people. So all UN languages except maybe French, Russian, and Chinese, which is not there. The others that are more functional in the developing country regions are now all available, so you can log in and use them. Thank you very much for that, Stephen and Baba, and also Thiago. We now move on to listen to the country experiences. I will start with Senegal. But before that, maybe if you have one or two burning questions, because our intention is to have all questions after the presentations, but maybe you have one or two burning questions, and I want to take that before we move on. So I have two of them. Is there a microphone, please? Okay.
Yes, thank you very much for overview of the CGE. I'm Hương from Vietnam. I'm just wondering whether you have any plan for personal training to develop our transparency framework, because this is still under discussion now. Hello?
It was quite low, but did you get the question? Yeah. Okay, good. So I will take the other question from the back.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the floor. I'm Gervais from Republic of Congo. I want to check if there is any collaboration between CGE and the TSU IPCC technical support on events. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I think I would take that question, and maybe still if Stephen wants to complement. Yeah, we have, I would say, ongoing and standing cooperation with IPCC TSU, especially on the training related to inventory, because we know the IPCC have depth of knowledge in that area. So we really work together with them in not only the training, but also the use of the IPCC software, because we, as Secretariat, have decided that, I mean, it's more cost effective to use the IPCC 2006 software. So we have been working very closely with them and training parties in the use of that particular application. So all the resources I think that the IPCC have is also available, and the links are also there that you can certainly go to and have additional information on that. We will move on quickly, and if you have additional questions, please let's raise them after the presentations from the countries. Sorry, there's a question from Vietnam. I've been reminded. Stephen is poised to answer that. Sorry about that, Stephen. Please.
Thank you. I get the question from Vietnam on whether or not, or what the CGE is doing to prepare for the transparency or to enhance capacity for the transparency framework and the Paris Agreement. And I think the simple answer is that the CGE is actually an institution of parties, created by parties and given a clear mandate. The CGE is ready to move into any area that the parties, of course, wish or decide in their own wisdom, of course, to assign to the CGE. And we are already working with the other institutions, of course, charged with the different responsibilities under the Paris Agreement. Of course, looking ahead, knowing, of course, the possibility of rolling out capacity building in relation to the Paris Agreement, the transparency framework. But then, of course, the details of that then will have to be, of course, given by the parties, of course, by assigning that particular mandate, of course, to the CGE. Thank you.
Okay, so Madeleine,
okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to thank the Secretary on behalf of Senegal and also with CGE for inviting us to share our lesson learned from our recent national communication. We have submitted our national communication this year, think at earlier in May, in May, last May, and I will focus on really the MRV aspect. So I use it. Okay, so this is Senegal, just to for people who have an overview of what looks Senegal map. Uh, Also, this is information regarding the level of engagement of Senegal in the climate process. And I just want to inform you that Senegal ratified the agreement, the Paris Agreement. And also, actually, we have also submitted our INDC, and we are also working on the NDC, because we want to make some few revision on the INDC before we record it in the registry. And we are actually in our third national communication that we have submit. So you see here the evolution of the emissions. You show that the emission is increasing. So this is the fact that Senegal also is, as all developing country, has its economy ongoing, and this maybe create also some emission. The methodology we have used is for the third national communication is the IPCC 2000, the IPCC 1996 guideline, but for the INDC we moved to the 2006 guideline. Just to show you the evolution of emission. And I want just to focus on the AFOLO and the energy sector. We have the key main emission sector. And what we have learned from the process of doing the national communication, in particular the third national communication and the INDC, is there's a lot of capacity that was being increased in developing the greenhouse gases inventory, in particular for this sector. But also, more you know, maybe more you look at the difficulties you are facing. And regarding the agriculture sector, there was, yes, as I say, through the support of the CGE, through many workshops where Senegal was being part, we increase our capacity of collecting data, but we know how these data are more and more need more assessment on the level of quality, because it's not just collection of data, but also you have to look at the quality of the data. You look at the coherence of data. And when we were going through this issue of agriculture and forestry, AFOLO in particular, we see that we do face the problem of coherence of data, even if the collection of data was being improved. And here is just to show you, you have been positioned to really on agriculture, on AFOLO, in particular on agriculture, manual management, we go for it, rice cultivation, we go for it, savanna burning also, we go for it. But as I say, there are still some information we need to better collect, we need to better assess. And I just want to focus on savanna burning. We don't have a exhaustive inventory. So this allow us to ask the Ministry of Agriculture to really reoriented his way of making the database systems. And also on rice cultivation, it was really interesting because Senegal is having a big program on rice cultivation. So we start, maybe you're gonna see it later, we start asking for how we can minimize the emission on rice cultivation, but it became a political discussion, a political debate. So it was a sensitive aspect. So I come later. On manure management, so enteric fermentation, we have more information regarding the characterization of livestock. So really, I thank CGE and all this workshop. It was really useful. But the problem we're facing is also we have to look at our national climate condition and also our national socio-economical culture. Because Senegal is a silent country, we have what we call nomad. The livestock is a transhumance, it's a pastoralism process. So it's not only just using IPCC guideline, putting some data, but it is what we have to do. So it was what was done by the experts. So, but when you look at the coherence, you say no, because also I come later on that. So this all of us really looking at the rice cultivation sector, livestock inventory, and also savanna burning. We see that there are really a need for better capacity. And here I show you the linkage, because on the mitigation part, as I say, we try to say how we can minimize the emission from rice cultivation. So we start moving on what we call, I put it in French, l'approche comment on appelle ça? SRE. It's a kind of project where you use less water, and where you lose less water. But the problem we're facing, and where also the rice is, comment on appelle ça, immergé. The rice is up, not under water. So when we start talking about that, the Ministry of Agriculture says, oh, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the technology. So the farmers are not trained for this kind of for this kind of project. So I think it's good to see the reality, where you want to, what kind of mitigation you're working on, and what it is the reality of a country regarding the policy, regarding the capacity to implement. So I think this allow us to even to revise this aspect. It was in the report, but in the INDC, we move on something else. Okay, on energy also, it's really interesting also. We have all this debate on, because Senegal was in the trend of using more coal. So what we have show is by using more coal, we're going to increase the emission from due to coal. And I think it was really a good opportunity to sensitize and educate policy makers to say that we might really, and also all this health aspect. So I think this was things we really work on. We really learn from the national communication process and how the national communication process can influence the decision we are making. So this is really something important I want to highlight. Is what we're seeing here between what you emit when using coal and what you move from coal to renewable energy. So in forestry, it was a big problem. we really have problem of data in forestry. So there is no recent inventory. So what we have go through different projects. So you don't have the exhaustive view of what it is really the forest data. So this is really a problem, and I can say you, and this all of us really, by going under this exercise, trying to really be more transparent, trying to be really more accurate on data in order to have accurate emission data at the end. This all of us to see that we having really some lack. And also there's a need really to better coordinate between people who are working around forestry. So in bring out at this kind of diagram we try to establish, and I just want also to thank the Secretariat and the CGE. We do have a workshop with, it was a workshop with Sabin. It was a program, a regional, sub-regional West African program in order to improve capacity of experts in West African country. There was a workshop on using the IPCC 2006 guideline. And at the end, we come up with this kind of coordination we have to set up regarding the MRV on Afolo to be sure that all actors working on Afolo are together. So we have agriculture, we have livestock sector, we have afforestation, forestation sector expert, and what we need is to be together in order to look at the evolution of land, of land. So, and also to allow them to share their data. So we're gonna have what we call a kind of database, a follow system we're gonna set up. And really, I think it is really interesting. It's something we start having meetings, trying to see where's the limitation of data, what is the requirements of data. And I really think the process is going on. So I really thanks CGE Secretariat for all these workshops. I think they are really important for all these document and documentation you are providing. And someone say you basically need to make it on different language to allow most of experts who are not really friendly on English, but to have a possibility to go through it into better improve quality of national communication, biennial report coming, and also all this NDC coming up. I think it's really important. My last slide is, in Senegal, we're trying also to frame a MRV system, building all this on all these things on the national communication, on the biennium what we started, and also taking in consideration the adaptation also part. So we're trying also for each category, mitigation and adaptation, to have MRV process. And we looking really to allow the key sector to play the key role on the process. So it's more and more institutionalism process we're moving on. So listen, yes, we really need to have a QAKC system. I think something we need really to improve, and we asking also for more more capacity, more workshop on that. On IPCC 2006, we only have on the forestry, about a forest law sector. We're looking for having more on the over energy sector. And yes, there is also something really interesting for livestock. We have some national institute who are starting working with other partners on livestock emission factor, just to make it appropriate to what it is going on our country. So this is, and even in the Sahelian zone, I think it's interesting to see this kind of lecture. There's also another things I think is important is how you the activation, how you compile all data. So I think it's also something we need to set up to help different sectors to go through. And I think this will allow us to have more clarity on data and all these things. Okay. So this is just to finish. I think there was a last process. So really Senegal is working on, and I think this is really something coming for all this process, how really to make each sector who is coordinating a key inventory part to be responsible, to play fully his role on the process. And I think is the way to move on, and also really have some synergy, some coordination at the national level is also something we are doing on. So just to thank you for giving me this opportunity. You have done a lot, CGE, Secretariat, all the process, but also we see that there is more and more need because people are more and more aware on what it is necessary for making good report. Thank you.
Okay, so let's. Thank you very much, Madeleine. I think we will still have to hold on with the questions and allow Albania to make her presentation. Important point in terms of how they've linked the national communication or national reports that they're preparing with policy formulation. I think that is one big issue I think we have to take away with us, aside the benefit that it has gained from the training that CGE has been carrying out. I would now want to invite Madam
Laureta.
Yeah.
Laureta.
Yeah, Loretta Dibra from Albania to make a presentation on Albania's also national communication and the experience they have had working with the CGE.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to briefly show the efforts that the Albania government. Is it working? Okay.
It takes time.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I would like briefly to give a short overview of the policies and the great efforts that the Albania government has done actually this last 3 years for the preparation of the legal framework and the institutional framework for the addressing all the climate change issues in mitigation and adaptation areas. Based also in the findings from the second national communications and also the EU recommendations in this area, we have started with the preparation of the national strategy on climate change and its mitigation action plan, where the NDC implementation is the core of this document. And in parallel, supported by a EU project, we are preparing the law on climate change as a framework law for transposing all the EU acquis in this area. And in parallel, we have prepared the government order for establishing the system on monitoring, reporting, and verifications. Since February 2015, we have started with the NAP process supported by GIZ, JZ, and we have attended a parallel approach for preparation the NAP document, but also for mainstreaming the climate change issue in a certain strategic and planning documents. Till now, we have done for many important documents in the country, in the strategy for integration and development, strategy on agriculture, strategies on water resources management, and the urban planning. But in general, we have tried to find the synergies between different measures in the sectors and cross sectors in a way to address all the climate change issues, not just only as the work of the Ministry of Environment, but we have tried to coordinate the work with all other institutions responsible for climate change, such as the Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Energy, and we have also based in other obligations that Albania has through the Energy Community Treaty, has been prepared a package on energy which covers both renewable energies and energy efficiency, and also some efforts has been in the transport sector with the preparation of national transport for sustainable transport, which covers many indicators which are related to the reduction of air pollution, reduction of greenhouse gas emission, and also energy efficiency. Now, part of this package has been also the third national communications, where we have been supported by the UNDP program on climate change, and for the presentation of the findings and the lesson learned from this process, I would like to give the floor to my colleague Mirela Camberi that will explain deeper. Thank you.
Okay. Marla, sorry not to have introduced you, so you have the floor, Ms. Cameron, yeah?
Okay, thank you. Shall I use?
Yeah.
Is it
It's
on?
already on.
Okay, thank you very much. Very honored and happy to have the opportunity to present the third national communication of Albania, which was I'm going through a 3-year process and which represents a work of so many national and international experts, and it's why not a very scientific work behind going beyond the requirement of a reporting document. The third national communication is submitted to the secretary, to the UNFCCC secretariat, I think a month ago. So very recent. We had the opportunity to launch it and then submit it and publish it in Albanian and in English as well. I've left a copy there and a couple of CDs, but anyway, of course, it is in the webpage of the Secretariat. And but if you have any request, then please just send us an email or something. Okay, so the third national communication is coming after the first one submitted in 2002 and the second one in 2009. And in between, we had the opportunity also to finalize the technology need assessment report. In terms of the results, what the third national communication has as a main objective was to come up with the inventory of the greenhouse gases for the base year 2005, and also update the whole time series from 2000 to 2009 for the sectors as per the methodology, so energy or fuel combustion technologies, so energy and transport, agriculture, land use change, and forestry and waste and industrial processes, focusing more on the sectors which do have, major contribute for the greenhouse gases emissions, like transport sector and also the cement industry, which is established in Albania the last 10 years, let I say, and it has a real contribution. Then the climate change projections are developed and applied for the vulnerability assessment and adaptation, focused on the coastal zone of Albania for some reasons, because there is just the 1/3 of the population is living there, but also part of the coast is very low and vulnerable to the sea level rise and to climate change. The sectors analyzed are water resources, agriculture, tourism, population, energy, of course, biodiversity, health, etc. Then the third national communication is coming with an adaptation action plan formulated for the coastal zone of Albania in the frame of the integrated coastal zone management. The mitigation analysis, we came with two different scenarios, so the baseline scenario and the mitigation scenario for the sectors of energy, forestry, agriculture, and waste, actually, up to 2030. And of course, what is normally the case in the national communication process, the update of the national circumstances and the undertaken or envisaged steps to implement the convention, and also the institutional capacity building and awareness raising on climate change in Albania. This is not the first time. Even the first and the second national communication, I mean, in an environment of scarce resources for climate change, have been used to go a bit beyond the objective of the national communication. And in this case, we can mention the work, I mean, under the leadership of the Ministry of Environment to in a way, update the climate change target of the environmental cross-cutting strategy, and also identify a list of 11 NAMAs, so National Appropriate Mitigation Actions, make a prioritization of those, and then come with the development of 2 NAMAs, one of them in the area of energy efficiency, so the financing mechanism for the implementation of the energy efficiency action plan in the building sector, households and service, and also the second one, which is related with the fuel switch in the cement industry, so trying to use the non-hazardous waste as a fuel for the cement industry in the country. And of course, as my colleague mentioned, Albania submitted the INDC September last year, and behind the analysis, of course, the findings of the third national communication in terms of inventory and mitigation analysis were core there. There is also something new that we did it for the first time under the third national communication, and this is related with gender. And we haven't looked at this issue before, so in the previous 2 communications, and this time we came up with guidelines on gender integration to climate change policies as part of the process of the national communication formulation. And we'll be very looking forward to implement those guidelines once the country is going to start with the biannual updated report and also with the fourth national communication. And it has been a very interesting and hardworking to understand how gender is linked to climate change and what might be, or how we are going to look at the policies and strategies at the central level, but also at the local level to integrate those issues. We were mentioned here, of course, a lot of capacity building and trainings from, and of course in Albania as well, we had the opportunity to go and to deliver, we call it thematic trainings probably, and consultations as per three different pillars of the third national communication, that are the inventory, going with the IPCC, of course, training on the IPCC methodology for the greenhouse gases inventory. In terms of the vulnerability and assessment, we were supported by the Stockholm Environmental Institute with the hands-on training on one of the softwares called WEEP, which is related with the water resources. And in the area of mitigation analysis, we still use the same support from the Stockholm Environmental Institute to go through the hands-on training for another software, which is LEAP, and this is related to the energy. The thing is that if you are in a small country, but not only, it's good to not to provide too many tools to the stakeholders, to the national stakeholders for their analysis. And I would like to mention that we were a bit careful to understand their needs and then to try to be in line with them in terms of when we were doing LEAP, of course, we were we care to see that also the energy sector as such is using LEAP for their analysis in the energy sector in terms of the energy, the energy strategy of the country. The same with WEEP, which we are now continuing to use for the water modeling of the rivers in the country, not to make too many confusion and have too many training and capacity building in different areas, and then at the end of the day we cannot we don't have a group of experts who really are able to use those tools. Now very fast on the findings of the third national communication. First, the inventory of greenhouse gases. As is normally the case, the main contribution is coming from the energy sector. In Albania, since we are producing almost 100% of the electricity by hydro, the main contribution is coming from transport sector, actually, in terms of the energy sector. And other sectors are following. What is one of the conclusions I would like to mention here is that compared to other national communication, the land use, the forestry sector actually has increased its zinc contribution. So during 2008 and 2009 only, while the industrial processes due to cement industry, they has increased their greenhouse gases emissions. So this was kind of a new thing, and very glad that the forestry is going where they should be and make to have their role. In terms of the mitigation analysis, we have used this methodology. So identifying from the inventory, having the base, the first year of the mitigation analysis is the base year, so 2005, then identifying the greenhouse gases emissions and sources of emissions. We defined, of course, through wider consultations, the main barriers to mitigation. Then mitigation options were identified, and then they were prioritized by sector. Some economic analysis were used mainly for the energy sector, and then recommendations are part of the third national communication based on the scenarios built for the energy sector, forestry, agriculture, and waste sectors. I've picked only two sectors, so the energy sector and the forestry. In terms of the energy sector, if the country will be able to implement the recommendations of the third national communication, there is a potential of around 14% of reduction of CO2 emissions, or greenhouse gases, or CO2 equivalent. While in terms of the forest sector, if we are going to to implement at least two measures, one is which is related with this technological improvement, being there also the energy efficiency of fuel wood combustion. And then if we are going to plant an area of 500 to 1,000 hectares per year, we will be able by 2030-32 to turn this sector into a sustainable one. In terms of vulnerability and adaptation, of course, we came with the climate change scenarios for Albania. And then which take into consideration the temperature, the sea level rise, the other and the other indicators. And after having those analyzed, we came up with a vulnerable sector. We went into discussions and analysis for the water resources, agriculture, biodiversity, tourism, because the coastal zone of Albania is a very touristic one. And then at the end of the day, we came with a coastal adaptation plan, which has a series of measures in a short, medium, and long term. And the measures are also divided as per soft measures, green measures, gray measures. Even there is one fiscal measure. We can say that this plan became part of the strategic environmental assessment for the territorial plan, for the national territorial plan, and for the coastal territorial plan of Albania. So which is very good, because this is the aim at the end of the day, to integrate the findings into the policies of the country at central and local level. And now some key challenges. During the process of the preparation of the national communication, we still have to say that even though the government of Albania, as you heard my colleague from the Ministry of Environment, has done a lot and has put the preparation of the national communication as a critical part of their efforts in terms of climate change, still available resources are scarce due to countries' pressing social and development needs. And during the process of the third national communication, like my colleague from Senegal was saying, we also had a lot of problems with the data and the data flow especially. So we prepared a draft piece of legislation to address the basis for climate change issues, which of course brought difficulties regarding concrete institutional support and inputs to the national communication preparation by a diverse set of economic sectors. And very glad to hear that now this draft is already at the final stage. Hopefully we'll be having it in place next year. Yes. In terms of the guidelines and methodologies, of course, there were some gaps, mainly related with the observational network in terms of soil moisture, evapotranspiration, groundwater, short series of solar radiation and wind, lack of monitoring of climate change related indicators, but also uncertainties in modeling the climate variability, and of course uncertainties with regards to the greenhouse gases inventories. And still limited capacities, of course, to evaluate costs and benefits, which is very important at the end of the day. You have to go to the government and say, this is the third national communication. And they would say, okay, fine with it, but what is the cost? I mean, what are we gonna do with those findings? And this is still the capacity is needed to improve those analyses. Lessons learned. One of the lessons learned is the establishment of the Interministerial Working Group on Climate Change in Albania. It's a permanent coordinating body on climate change issues, was very handful. and not only to avoid delays with the stakeholders coordinating during the process of national communication, but it serves the country to facilitate sound decision-making with climate change issues. A very good practice of the Ministry of Environment to invite the climate change related projects in the country to present their findings in front of this body and to discuss and then ask for the endorsement of their findings. And in this way, I may say that this was also kind of a capacity building for this body itself, because there are sitting people from different line ministries, and sometimes they are not permanent there, they are changing, and you have to start from the beginning, and this is a very important the role of, I'm coming from UNDP climate change program, and we have been in a way since years now coordinating the process of the national communication, being, you know, kind of an interface at the country level with the government and the private sector participants, ensuring kind of the cost efficiency of the process implementation. Of course, hands-on training, I already mentioned those. I'm not going into, are very important. Still, there is a need for capacity building and hands-on training. The legislation, which I already mentioned, to establish a continuous data measurement and analysis system, so to secure the data flow and also to involve the Institute of Statistics in the country. So in order to quote to real national data as sound data and not vice versa. We also came up in cases that where it was very difficult. We came with a survey designed to correct for the activity data under the biomass, so use of fuel wood. And I may say that I can't say that. I may say also that we, at the end of the third national communication, we came up with new scenarios for Albania using the latest report, and those we will be able, we hope to be able to use for the fourth national communication. The broad stakeholders' involvement and consultations at all stages, very important at the stock taking to help them to understand major climate change and environmental issues, capacity strengthening on climate change, data availability and access, and the preferred geographical and sectoral focus during the inception, of course, to assist all partners to fully understand and take ownership of the process, and during the implementation, very important to have them on board the whole time in order to have good findings. In terms of the recommendation, we have a recommendation to keep intact the national greenhouse gases inventory and mitigation and vulnerability and adaptation team, and of course widen this group over the time, as they in a way represent an institutional memory, but also they have a detailed experience on how to cope with problems and issues. Use the national communication process for mainstreaming and integrating whatever findings, you know, into other development sectoral strategies. It will be a main document where the others are going to get referred to mobilize, you know, funds, projects in the area of climate change. Of course, the GEF support is still important and needed. And I can also mention the support from the National Communication Support Program, UNEP, UNDP. Where we are preparing the concept for the first biannual updated report, most probably to come together with the fourth national communication. And what is still needed, training and specific materials to assess or reduce uncertainties in the case of Albania, but also to evaluate, as I was mentioning before, the costs and the benefits and potential and limitation for adaptation and mitigation. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Loretta and Marila, for the presentation. Colleagues, I think we're done with the presentation, so we open the floor if you have any questions to the presenters. Was Madeline? Yeah, okay. Senegal and also Albania, and certainly to the CGE chair if you have any additional questions to him. Can the mic be moved to? Okay.
My name is Niro from Imaflora, Brazil, and my question is for the CGE. And I would like to know what is the actions CGE is taking on the verification part of the MRV, and how does the CGE envision simple, reliable, and affordable verification system for developing countries? And I have another question for Albania, a very quick question. That's regarding the TNA tool of the UNDP DTU. And I would like to ask you, for what sector using the TNA tool of UNDP was more useful for in the case of Albania? I mean, using this protocol, what sector was more useful to identify gaps in technology for Albania? Thank you.
Any additional questions? Yes.
Thank you, Harry Frans from the Netherlands. Thanks for the presentation. It gives a clear view on the impact of the CGE work in the national communications and also the experience of two countries. You showed that you had a lot of help in preparing your national communications. And the conclusion is also that you want to continue with, let's call it institutional arrangement, just to avoid that you have now trained people that were in the job and are really doing a great job, is my feeling, based on this presentation. Now looking into the future, national communication is only every 2 years. Albania indicated that they want to combine the biannual update report with the national communication. What is your feeling? A 2-year cycle would help you more to continue your institutional arrangement, your experts, and to be more efficient. That is the biannual and the future reporting on the Paris, or 4-year cycle that you are now, or 5-year cycle that you're using with your national communication. A second question related to the future. Now you produce your national communication. Did you got any feedback? Because there is no analyze or review process of national communication in the UN. There is no place in SBI to talk about national communications. Did you get any feedback from institutional organizations, UN or universities or whatever, on your national communication, or was the process more or less closed after you publish them? And you only can use meetings like this to show your experiences. Thank you.
Okay, so if there are no additional questions, then I will ask CGE Chair, Albania, and also Senegal to respond to the questions. First, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you, William, and thank you. I didn't hear where the question came, which party, but it's fine. So I think the issue was on actions the CGE is taking or is putting in place to address the verification aspects in the MRV system for developing country parties. As of now, we have a chapter, at least in our training materials, on MRV. And then, of course, this is something that is still dynamic. We are still developing it, of course, based on the needs of developing countries, country parties. In terms of practical aspects of this, we have at least what is in place right now in the reporting process for developing countries, especially with respect to BOR, is actually the ICA process, and the FA, which is ideally more supposed to be facilitative to help developing country parties, of course, identify weaknesses in their reporting or gaps in their reporting, and work with them to translate those into capacity building needs. Because as of now, of course, the developing country parties are still going through an analysis process as opposed to the review process of Annex 1 parties. So that's what is in place right now, but we are still thinking ahead, of course, to see how best then we can move the issue of verification and the broader MRV work, of course, forward with respect to developing country party needs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Who is to respond? Albania? Is it Mario? Yeah, okay, please go ahead.
The first question was related that which for which sector we or the tools were more of help. You know, anytime that you use a tool like what you mentioned, you have to also analyze the data and the availability of data and the quality of data. And luckily enough, this is kind of a combination of the best data that we have for the energy sector from one side, but from the other side, this is one of the sectors which do contribute most in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. If I may continue in terms of this 2 years are enough or not, I may say that, as my colleague was mentioning at the beginning, in case of Albania, since we are in that way to the EU integration, we are the requirements, let us say, for climate change are getting stronger and stronger. And this is on the other side helping with assistance, and as it was mentioned, so EU supported projects now are helping the country with capacity building and trainings, etc., and also some other donors. In terms of the feedback, before publishing our third national communication, and that was the case for the 2 previous ones, we sent the report for peer review to this the support program for national communication of non-Annex 1 countries. And this is done, so each of these chapters were seen and peer reviewed by external experts, international experts. I may mention the expertise given by the Meteorological Institute of Cuba for the greenhouse gases inventories, but also with the resources within the National Communication Support Program. Both other chapters are reviewed and the comments are reflected, and then the report is published. And I think I don't mean if I miss any.
Madeleine?
Yeah, thank you. Thank for your question. I think it's a really interesting one regarding the binomial and the national communication. I do think for most of developing country, the objective of the 2 reports are really different. The binomial report is more focused on mitigation part, and the national communication is more open because you have in the national communication also the adaptation part, but it is not in the binomial report. And I do think that these different reports are really interesting and are really different on the objective and on the function, but they can have some interlinkage. But it's up to the country to see how the national communication can be used in order to do the binomial report. And the binomial report, as I say, is more focused on mitigation. So what are the kind of accuracy you might move from the national communication to a binomial report, because the binomial report is supposed to be something really more in mitigation part, more accurate on data, and also on the mitigation program you as national strategy program you are having at the national level on mitigation. So I think for country, for having these 2 report, and also the last report we are supposed to do with the agreement from Paris is the NDC, you are not having the same things. So the NDC is a commitment, and the Bynum report, as far as talking about a mitigation, allow you to really check on your mitigation component of your NDC, which is really great. And also even the national communication allow you also to look at the adaptation part of your NDC. So I think it's 3 different report, and each of these report have his own objective and own value. And I think yes, I think having these 2 years for Bynum report, 4 years for national communication is something we, as a developing country and as Senegal, we want to continue having. Thank you. And I just want to say something. On the national communication, there is also this opportunity to bring new things, to bring new, new innovative aspect, but you are not maybe in a position to do for the NDC or the Bynum report. Thank you.
So thank you very much. May I just invite you to also join me to thank the presenters for their presentations. Okay. So thank you very much for joining us. I think that's all time would allow us for. CG is out there. I mean, if you have any questions, I'm sure the CG members will be happy to respond to that. And they are very poised. Already the terms of reference is going under review at this session. And hopefully the CG has additional 2 years to work on the 2018. Thank you very much and see you. Yeah. So the room is so hot. Yeah. It is quite a bunch of information. No, it is. The most important thing. It's a language policy. Oh, thank you. Very, very good. That's it. Thank you, Google.
I got the, I have them in, I have it in my bag. Okay.
You copy directly on the desktop, yeah?
Okay.
It's this one.
Yeah, you can delete it. We have the.
The gentleman